Willie Nelson's story begins in the small town of Abbott, Texas, where he was born on April 29, 1933. Life there offered little comfort. The town was quiet, rural, and shaped by the hardships of the Great Depression. When Willie and his sister Bobby were still very young, their parents left, and the two children were raised by their grandparents, Alfred and Nancy Nelson. Their home was modest, but it was filled with discipline, faith, and music. Nancy encouraged both children to learn songs from hymn books and practice regularly. At just 6 years old, Willie received his first guitar, an instrument that quickly became more than a toy. It became his companion. Music gave him a place to express feelings he didn't yet have words for. In a childhood marked by absence and uncertainty, melodies and lyrics offered stability, quietly shaping the boy who would one day transform American music. Music as a lifeline. Growing up in Abbott meant learning responsibility early. Willie helped with farm work, picking cotton, and doing odd jobs to support the household. Yet music remained at the center of his world. By the age of 9, he was already playing guitar in local bands and performing wherever small opportunities appeared. Radio stations and church gatherings became his earliest stages. He listened carefully to every style he could find: gospel from church choirs, Western swing on the radio, and blues drifting through nearby towns. These sounds blended together in his mind, forming the foundation of a style that would later feel entirely his own. Writing songs soon followed. Even as a teenager, Willie filled notebooks with lyrics and ideas, capturing emotions far beyond his years. For him, music was never just entertainment. It was a way to understand the world around him and to make sense of the quiet loneliness that sometimes followed him through childhood. Searching for direction. After graduating from Abbott High School in 1950, Willie faced the same uncertainty many young people from small towns experience. He briefly joined the U.S. Air Force, hoping structure might guide his future, but health issues ended that chapter quickly. Back in Texas, he moved through a series of ordinary jobs, selling Bibles, working as a disc jockey, pumping gas, and taking on whatever work helped pay the bills. None of these jobs felt permanent. Music remained the thread connecting every stage of his life. Whether performing in small honky-tonks or working late-night shifts at radio stations, he continued writing songs with quiet determination. Those years were not glamorous, but they were important. They shaped his resilience and deepened his connection to everyday people. The stories he observed during that time, the struggles, the laughter, the heartbreak, later became the emotional heart of many of his songs. The songwriter behind the hits. By the early 1960s, Willie Nelson had begun building a reputation in Nashville as a talented songwriter. Several of his compositions became major hits for other artists. One of the most famous was Crazy, recorded by Patsy Cline, which went on to become one of the most beloved songs in country music history. Other songs like Hello Walls and Funny How Time Slips Away also found success. Yet, despite writing music that captured the hearts of millions, Willie himself struggled to gain recognition as a performer. The Nashville industry preferred polished voices and carefully produced sounds, while Willie's style was relaxed, conversational, and deeply personal. Record labels often tried to reshape his music, adding arrangements that didn't reflect his natural approach. Though the success of his songwriting brought some financial stability, it also created a frustrating reality. His songs were celebrated, but the man who wrote them was still searching for his place in the spotlight. Facing financial challenges. Even after achieving fame, life continued to test Willie Nelson in unexpected ways. In 1990, financial complications related to earlier tax arrangements resulted in a large debt owed to the government. The situation became public and difficult, as many of his assets were temporarily seized while the issue was resolved. Instead of retreating from the spotlight, Willie responded in the way he knew best, through music. He recorded a simple acoustic project called the IRS tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories, and sold it directly to fans. The album reflected his resilient spirit, just a voice, a guitar, and the honesty that had always defined his work. Support from listeners and years of continued touring eventually helped him settle the debt. The experience reminded Willie that material possessions could come and go, but his connection with audiences and the songs themselves remained the true foundation of his career. Personal loss and reflection. Life's challenges were not limited to financial struggles. Over the years, Willie experienced the deep emotional weight of losing loved ones and friends who had shared his journey. Such moments inevitably shape any person, especially someone whose life has been lived so publicly. Rather than withdrawing, Willie continued to channel those emotions into music. His later performances often carried a deeper sense of reflection. Songs about time, memory, and love took on new meaning as he sang them with decades of life behind him. Fans who attended his concerts could feel that emotional depth. It wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about honesty. The voice that once captured youthful longing now carried the wisdom of experience. In this way, his music evolved alongside his life, becoming not just entertainment, but a living record of resilience and human connection. Health and the passage of time. As Willie entered his later years, health challenges naturally appeared. After decades of performing and touring, he began dealing with breathing difficulties and other physical limitations. Instead of ending his career, he adapted. Tour schedules became more carefully planned, and performances focused on what mattered most, the songs themselves. Even with these adjustments, his presence on stage remained unmistakable. Holding his famous guitar, Trigger, he continued delivering the same heartfelt performances audiences had loved for decades. The voice had aged, but its character remained powerful. In many ways, those later performances carried an even deeper emotional impact. Listeners understood they were witnessing not just a concert, but the ongoing story of a life dedicated to music. Every note reflected perseverance and gratitude for the chance to keep sharing songs with the world. Family, legacy, and peace. In the later chapters of his life, Willie found a sense of balance that earlier decades rarely allowed. His marriage to Annie D'Angelo brought stability, and his sons Lucas Nelson and Micah Nelson followed their own musical paths. Performing alongside them became one of Willie's greatest joys. Family gatherings at his Texas home offered a quieter rhythm of life compared to the endless travel of earlier years. At the same time, he continued supporting causes close to his heart. One of the most important is Farm Aid, the benefit concert series he co-founded to support American farmers. For Willie, helping rural communities was personal. It connected directly to the environment where he grew up. His legacy therefore extends beyond music. It includes generosity, advocacy, and a lifelong connection to ordinary people. A legacy that still sings today, Willie Nelson stands as one of the most respected figures in American music history. His influence stretches far beyond country music, touching folk, rock, and countless other genres. More importantly, his songs have become part of people's lives. They are played during celebrations, during quiet moments of reflection, and during long drives when someone simply needs good company in the form of a familiar voice. What makes Willie unique is not just talent, but authenticity. Across decades of change in the music industry, he remained committed to being himself. That consistency created a bond between artist and audience that few performers ever achieve. The boy from Abbott who once played small-town gigs grew into a cultural icon, yet he never lost the humility that defined his beginnings. His music continues to remind listeners that honesty, persistence, and heart can leave a legacy that lasts far beyond the stage.